Hey everyone, it is CEO Check-In. I am so happy to be back. I took last week off because I was attending Vern Harnish's Scaling Up Masterclass. Vern is on our board at Million Dollar Women, and he is one of the leading coaches and thinkers and authors on how to scale up businesses. He mainly works with businesses making $1 million and over. So we're just upstream of him, helping women get to $1 million, then they can graduate into his programs. But I got to take part in his 3-day masterclass, and it was fantastic. Great review on execution, strategy, people, cash, all the things that help a business scale up. And I'm so excited to bring those back into the Million Dollar Women community, where we already use a number of his tools, like the one-page strategic plan, and I just always love learning with him. But great to be back with you guys this week, and I'm so excited that we have Raabia Shafi coming on today. Hi, Raabia. I'm going to bring you on in a minute. Hey, Valencia. Hello, Hospitality King Travel. Hello, JDRES. Oh, Diva Girl, haven't seen you in a while. Nice to see you. All right, Alyssa, great. We've got a super turnout here today. And Nkrumah, hello, buddy. Have you ever noticed, ladies, that some of your male friends introduce you to just the best women who you just love to pieces? In this case, Robbie and I met separate from Nkrumah, but he's already introduced me to so many awesome people as an advisor. Mwah, thank you. And Robbie and I love singing your praises when you're not around. So before I bring Raabia on, I always like to do the Go Big tip. So today's Go Big tip is to ask for help. And I know that sounds simplistic, but here's the thing. The very qualities that make entrepreneurs driven and self-reliant and independent are the very things that can get in their way when they're looking to get through a tough time, like we are right now, or to scale up. When you're looking to scale up and get to $1 million in revenues, likely it doesn't mean doing a whole lot more of what you're doing right now. We all know the definition of insanity. You know it? It's doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. So who would do that, right? But 99% of entrepreneurs are head down at their desk, doing the same thing they did yesterday, hoping to get different results. So if that resonates with you, it's time to lift the head and go ask for help, especially in tough times like this. I know that in our community, I was just blogging about this weekend. My blog went live today. Check it out on juliapimsler.com under blog. It's called New Definition of Success. And it's really about the fact that we sometimes forget to ask for help. And at a time like this, if I didn't know how to ask for help, I don't know where we would be at Million Dollar Women, right? All of our community is small business owners. And we know small business owners have been hit so hard in this pandemic. In fact, a CBS study showed that for Black business owners, which is also a big part of our community, 40% of Black-owned businesses have shut down and are not expected to reopen. And then, of course, there's this she session everyone's talking about, right? We know that this pandemic has disproportionately affected women in corporate America, but also women entrepreneurs. So if you do one thing for me today, other than staying to hear Raabia, because she's fantastic and I'm so excited to share her with you, it's get off the CEO check-in when we're done and think about someone who you could ask for help. Maybe it's a mentor. Maybe it's a family member. Sometimes we just get so caught up in wanting to be resilient and have grit and power through, right? All the qualities that made us become an entrepreneur that we forget to reach out and get that help that is really just one phone call or one email away. So please do that for me and let me know how that goes. You can always reach me by writing to my team at alex@juliapim.com. And if you have a great story about reaching out for help, we'd love to hear it. And we could feature it in our next newsletter that goes out to 22,000 people or in my blog. All right, without further ado, I'm so excited to bring on Raabia. Hi, Helen. Hey, Nicole. Raabia is a leadership coach and a strategy consultant, and she runs Raabia Shafi Consulting. So her area of expertise is working with executive teams in corporate America. She's worked with some really big companies, Citibank, Clinique, Slice, Eisner Amper, and she helps executives build amazing cultures and become the leaders that they wish they had. And I love that phrase here. I'm going to read it exactly the way she says it. She helps executive teams build amazing cultures and show up as the leaders they wish they had. provocative phrase, right? I want to hear how she explains that. So get your questions ready for Raabia. And she's also a graduate of 2 of our programs, $1 Million Women Masterclass and Mastermind Gold. And she's become a dear friend. Workers who've gotten to gather a bit here in New York, which is so lucky, not to make you jealous if you haven't seen friends in a while. Here she comes. She's also been a frequent attendee.
Hi.
Check-in, and now you're the guest. This is so exciting.
So exciting. Can you hear me okay, Julia?
I can hear you great. And we knew we didn't have to do a test with you. Most of our guests were like sending them complicated instructions, like here's what you do if you can't get on. Raabia is going to be fine. She's been my co-pilot on this show.
Totally. Oh, so good to see you. Yeah. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me as a guest. And I was just laughing because I know I've literally been to every single one of your CEO check-ins, and I'm like, oh, and the year ends and it comes full circle. So I'm delighted. Thank you so much.
I love it, and it's a no-brainer because you have just been ramping up your business like crazy. I love seeing all you're doing on LinkedIn, the videos. I remember the very sessions we had in our Mastermind Gold. You're like, am I really going to do a video? And now you're just rocking it. You have your own show, right? We want to hear about that in a few minutes. So maybe just introduce yourself if you would, and then when you're done, you know, I gave a little bit of history. I would just love you to answer that question of like, what does that mean that people want to learn how to show up as the leaders they wish they had? I'd love you to explain that.
Totally. Well, hi everyone. Raabia Shafi. It's so lovely to be here. I am the biggest fan of the $1 Million Women community and of Julia. I always call myself a Julia junkie because I won't miss anything she puts out. So I started my own consulting firm. January will mark 4 years, which is kind of crazy how fast it goes.
How cool.
Thank you. And really the premise for what I do is helping leaders show up more self-aware, more understanding of how they impact others, and also especially that they do ultimately set the tone for the culture of the workplace, whether that's virtual, which nowadays oftentimes it is, or it's in person. I work across over 20 industries ranging from banking to healthcare, finance, and the whole idea, there's a Simon Sinek quote, which I absolutely love, and some colleagues of mine, we talk about it a lot, and it's, he says, let us choose to be the leaders we always wish we had. And really, it's like, if you're in a leadership position, you have a chance to, it's a choice how you show up. And I always say that there's that Spider-Man, Uncle Ben's quote, which is, with great power comes great responsibility. Yes. So imagine how much power you hold in your hand to positively influence the way people deliver their work, the way they interact with one another, because by virtue of your position, you ultimately you're holding up that standard for better or worse. So just make it a good one. That's kind of how I feel.
You know what that makes me think of, Raabia? I haven't had a boss in a long time, but I remember, I've mainly been an entrepreneur, but I remember when I was working for a social venture, and the head of the company was this really powerful, amazing woman. There was a team of about 10 or 12, and I still remember the feeling when I would walk into the door of the office, and I could tell right away by the energy of everybody in that room what mood she was in today. Right? Because when she was in a bad mood, it's like the whole place had a different vibe to it than when she was in a good mood, right? And I always try to remember that as a boss, that like whatever you do, you know, affects everyone on your team.
It totally does. And can I just share one of my favorite bizarre fun facts about leadership, which is fascinating? So we talk about, okay, leaders do set the tone, and you're leading by example, and people are following you no matter what industry you're in. But the cool thing is, research has showed it's not just a human thing or human nature to follow, it's a primate instinct. So there have been a lot of researchers that have focused on gorillas, for example, walking through the jungle. And you have a leader who's at the front of the pack, and every 5 to 10 seconds, the team of followers essentially will physically raise their head to look up and see what the leader is doing, and then they decide to move forward.
Oh, fascinating. So they're like always watching and mirroring.
Always watching.
Well, you always read about the fact that we are pack animals, right? As human beings.
Absolutely.
We do not want to go solo, which is really part of the reason that so many are struggling right now, right? mental health
Yeah,
wise. We are not meant to be locked into our apartments alone. We are
we are
meant to
not.
be right in
Yeah,
groups and community. But
for
because we're
sure.
so lucky to have you here today, one thing I love the most about the Million Dollar Women community is that you're all amazing at what you do. And I learned so much from you, right? I'm just helping you with the business skills part, but you're already an incredible coach. And I know we're both big
Thank you.
users of mindset tactics, right? We've had so many
For
great
sure.
conversations on that. So help us
Yeah.
understand for the entrepreneurs watching, right? I was thinking when I was getting ready for today that, I can't think of one entrepreneur who's hired a leadership coach. One, because,
Hmm.
money's tight when you're building your business
Yeah.
and you figure, well, that money's better spent on marketing or a new team member. So
Hmm.
what is one thing that you see leaders doing that entrepreneurs might be doing too, and just might not really be realizing it? Like, what's the main kind of
Oh,
complaint you
yeah.
get from teams about, hey, this is what's happening with my leader?
Oh my gosh, that's such a good question because there's this thing called founder syndrome, which I don't know if any of those
Tell
of
us
you who
what
are
that
listening
is.
out there,
I could
yeah.
guess,
So
but I want to hear it
yeah.
from you.
So when we work with leaders who are also entrepreneurs and often who have founded the businesses, if you can imagine this is their baby, the business. They are protecting it with every kind of ounce of their being. And oftentimes what happens is founders inadvertently, and this happens at, I would say I love all founders. They're awesome. I don't think anyone does this intentionally, but I would say at a subconscious level, what ends up happening is because we are so protective of this business and really raise it like our child, we also tend to do this thing called create a founder's circle. And so that
Oh,
sometimes
what's
can
that?
evolve.
What's a founder's circle?
Yeah,
Is that like a click at the top or
yeah,
something? That's what
it
it
could be
sounds
a
like.
click at the top. Yeah, that's exactly it. And a founder circle is great, right? You hire people you trust who you know will invest the time and energy in your business. But when that is dialed up rather high and you're starting to grow and evolve and you're trying to juggle all these priorities, sometimes founders will hire a founder circle that is made up of yes men and yes women and all genders, essentially, where it's like they can see sometimes the blind spots that the founder might be experiencing. Like maybe it's how they're showing up, maybe it's the tone that they're setting, maybe they're prioritizing things probably in the not the a suboptimal way, as an example.
Or
But
inadvertently reinforcing bad behavior. Like that same place that
exactly,
I worked, there were some people who bragged about like staying till 9 p.m., right? And
yeah,
unless the boss is like, hey, that's nothing to brag about. Like, we're not trying to promote a work culture where you
we're not
stay
trying to
until
promote
9
that.
p.m., right?
Yeah.
But if the boss
Yeah,
doesn't say
exactly.
that, and then a couple of people, oh, well, I stay till 10 p.m., the next thing you
Yeah.
know, you've got a culture where it's like, well, if you're not staying till 9 p.m., you're not a good employee.
Totally, totally. And so what happens is for founders and entrepreneurs, because they've been there since the very inception, they have created that business. Oftentimes they kind of cultivate without even knowing it these blind spots that can actually be shooting the business in the foot. And so when it comes to working with a coach, I'm a big proponent of it for business owners because you wear so many hats, and then as you're trying to grow, you're trying to delegate more. Sometimes we start to micromanage. And when you have someone who's not a part of the founders circle, when you have someone who's not a part of the executive team, whatever it might be, but a third party, I like to think of myself as impartial, right? Because my only kind of skin in the game is making sure the organization is successful, and the leaders show up as effectively as possible. That individual as a coach can actually help you kind of say, hey, you have the power and you have the responsibility to create this culture. Are you realizing the impact that your behaviors are having on the rest of the team? And really, it comes down to the customer experience.
Yes. Well, Raabia, here's the
So,
thing I'm thinking is people watching,
yeah,
and hi, Winnie. We've got some of your fellow masterclass grads who joined us. Hi, Anna.
yeah,
Is if they're sitting there thinking, well, I don't really have a team. This doesn't necessarily, apply to me yet. I just have part-timers. And by the way, now they're not even in my office because we're all remote. What's the
yeah,
version of this that applies to like a solopreneur who's got like a
yeah.
VA or someone with just one team member? How does this play out on a smaller level?
Great question. So I am the biggest believer, Julia, that the most important skill that a leader, a founder, an entrepreneur can have is self-awareness. And
Amen.
because, yeah, Yeah, and it is something that is forever growing. We're forever becoming more and more attuned to and kind of polishing the pearl, if you will, in understanding. There's never a cap to it. And I think when it comes to working with solopreneurs, and I am one myself, and you're my business coach. I have another colleague who's a coach of mine. So it takes a village. And I think the other piece of that is being able to have a sounding board, being able to bounce around ideas, not just around the business, but how are you showing up strategically? Like, how are you working with your clients? Like, what is this doing for your work-life balance, for example? Because I know for sure, and I know you know this really well, like burnout is a huge,
Oh,
huge
huge for entrepreneurs.
byproduct of being passionate about your business.
Yes.
Um, and I think the other thing I would say is by I do a lot of strengths-based coaching as well, and helping people recognize and understand their unique strength, their unique style. If you have a coach that's working with you who can help to showcase and kind of hold up the mirror and say, you know what, Julia, you are so incredible at X, Y, and Z. How do we leverage that to make sure that you are maximizing your potential as it relates to showing up for your business and for that one team member you have and for all those clients that you're hoping to
Well,
have?
that's a great idea to bring in, because I was just thinking, well, what could people do at home? And they could
Yes.
take, the Strength Finders test, which I think is available online. You have to pay a little something for it, and then
Yep.
work with a coach, Raabia, or someone else to go through
Hmm.
it. I know that our mutual friend, Carrie, who's so fabulous, Garansky, who's also a coach,
Love her.
she's
Yeah.
great. And she and I were doing some, stuff together during the quarantine. And at one point she said, why don't you and your chief of staff take the Strength Finders? So we
Yes.
did. And we learned so much from it. We learned, first of all, that of our top, is it 4 or 5? You get top.
Top 5.
Okay,
Hmm.
so of our
Hmm.
top 5 strengths, 4 were the same. So that was
Oh my
fascinating,
goodness.
right? But it also
That's a
showed, like,
rare.
oh goodness, we may have a gap on our team because we like to do the
Yes.
exact same things, right?
Yeah.
And that,
Yeah.
right, if no one on the team is like loves process, for
Yeah.
instance, right, that could be
Yeah.
a problem. So we
Yeah.
learned so much just from doing that. And I would love to hear what you recommend. But as a business
Yeah.
coach, if someone watching, Helen or Winnie or Aaliyah or anyone who's with us, Valencia, if you're thinking, well, how does this apply to me? I can't afford a leadership coach yet. I got to pay the bills. It's a pandemic.
Hmm.
Maybe
Yeah.
that's a place to start, or what else could they
That's a
do?
great place to start. And you know what I would say, not just to make a plug on what I was doing, that's the thing. I recognize that when it comes to working B2B, especially like working with corporations that have a learning and development budget, oftentimes executive coaching for 6 months will cost upwards of 6 to 9 to 10, 11, $12,000 easy, depending on what's involved and what kind of assessments and 360 feedback. But that's where I came up with this holiday promotion
Oh,
where
tell us about that.
yeah, and it's essentially, and I list it as a discounted price because it's exactly targeting those solopreneurs and entrepreneurs who are like, I don't have thousands and thousands of dollars to invest in full-on coaching. So I'm like, you know what you can do for, and I have it marked down as at 500. Essentially, it is you get the strengths assessment, the full-on assessment. You get a 25-page report of your results, and then I'll do what I call a grounding session with you to say, okay, what kind of awareness can we get from this? How can we plan for the future so that you're entering, let's say 2021, as your best self, your highest self? And there is so much you can learn in 1 hour when it
Oh,
comes to
yes,
strengths,
absolutely.
and
And the
it's a low
opportunity to
risk,
work
high
with you
return.
at that discounted rate, that's amazing. Is there a special extra discount for $1 Million Women?
There totally can be. Yes. Let's say yes. I
Yeah,
got your
let's say
back.
yes. Thank
So,
you.
hmm,
Awesome. I'll
absolutely.
let you
Yes.
figure that out. But
Yeah.
I know Nkrumah, who's on our advisory council, who's a dear old friend, and then if you
Love that
ask people
guy.
for help enough, eventually you just say, you know what, let me give you a title for this. Speaking of asking for help, because I really do practice what I preach on that one. But
Yes.
Nkrumah, if you're still with us, I'd love you to write in the chat, like, what's one thing you learned from your strength assessment? He might have just been popping on to say hi. I'm not sure he's still here. But what I love about strengths assessment, Raabia, is that the focus is on how do we help you do more of what you love. I think when
More
I
of what
first
you
took it,
love.
I was afraid that Carrie, who coached us through it, was going to be like, well, Julia, you really need to work on your this, and that.
Yes.
Where in
Yeah.
fact, that's not it at all. So will you just help people
No.
understand that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the strengths assessment, the whole premise is what would happen if we started focusing on what is right with people instead of fixating on what is wrong with them? And
Yes,
it's not to
love that.
say, oh, only do what you're good at. Really, it's saying every moment of the day, you're actually utilizing your top five themes that will come up, and those are so unique to you. In fact, a crazy statistic is there is a 1 in 33 million chance that you and anyone else in this world will have the same top five strengths listed in the same order. Like that's how unique we are.
Wow. Oh my goodness. So then
Yeah,
that's doubly surprising that my former chief of staff and I had four
that's
the
crazy. Yeah.
same, right? I know.
Yeah.
I should do it again
And
with Alyssa because Alyssa, who's our operations manager, is so complimentary because she like loves details and processes and
yes.
systems. And I have to do that with her. You're just
You should
giving me an
totally do
idea.
it. Yeah. And you know, you use that word complementary. I'll just say one more thing
Yeah.
about the strengths is that it's all about complementary partnerships because if you're a solopreneur, and I know this very well, I have to do everything unless I outsource it to someone. But really at the end of the day, it's like, can we focus on what I want to do, but then link up with someone or be able to search for a colleague or someone to delegate things to that is complementary, because the
Yes.
other piece with strengths is the belief is we have lopsided people who make up well-rounded teams.
What does that mean? That's interesting. We have lopsided people. So like nobody has all the strengths. That's kind of what you're saying.
Nobody does.
Nobody,
Yeah,
right.
then
So
we'd all
of
be
course,
perfect all the time, and
I
yeah,
love
it'd
that.
be
We have
kind of boring.
lopsided people who make up well-rounded teams. That's really
Yeah,
nice. And by the way, Alyssa's
yeah.
like, yeah, let's do it. She just wrote in the chat.
Alyssa, let's do it. I'm so
Let's do
excited.
it. That'd
Yeah,
be awesome.
totally.
The other thing I'm thinking is that this dovetails so nicely with what we teach in Million Dollar Women about becoming a delegation ninja, which you might
Yes.
remember we had you do the delegate your way to the top spreadsheet. And it's all
Yep.
about how can you figure out, first of all, where's my time going? Because most women who come to us are like,
It
I'm
goes
working all
fast.
day, but somehow the
Yeah.
business isn't growing. So what's the
Yeah.
part you love and are good at and is the strategy? And that really has to be you. And then what
Hmm.
can you delegate? So I think that that dovetails nicely with finding out these strengths, don't you
Absolutely.
think?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure it does. And I find that people who are kind of working alone all the time, like having the insights on your strength is just as, if not even more beneficial than working with larger teams because you're showing up for yourself every day. And so you're your own customer, you're your own colleague,
Yes.
you're your own client. It's kind of a funky mindset shift, but
Well,
it's
that's
like,
exactly
okay,
why I always say you
yeah.
can only grow your business as big as you grow yourself.
I love when you say that. Yeah,
Thank you. I
absolutely.
know you and I are so aligned on that. We can geek out for hours on mindset
Yeah,
stuff. So let's not even go down that road. That'll have to be another show. I
totally.
did want to ask you to share a little bit your journey with Million Dollar Women because I feel like the Raabia I met, when was that? Like about a year ago. It's like
That
you've just
was,
like bloomed and blossomed and are
thank
just
you.
on such an incredible, bright, shining path. So if you would just tell us a little bit about what's happened since we met, I'd love to have you tell the
Yeah,
story.
absolutely. No, thank you for asking. And I think I remember we met the day before on Galentine's Day. So that was
Oh,
nearly a year ago
almost a year
now,
ago.
which is
Yes, that's right. You came to our
crazy.
Galentine, the last live event we had.
The last live event I think the world had essentially before it all hit the fan with coronavirus. And so in connecting with you, so through Nkrumah, of course, who's also a client of mine and a dear friend, and I know when we first met, I was in my business for 3 years at that time, and long story short, I actually started my business literally the day after I got laid off. And I had some clients reach out to me and they were like, Rabia, we would love to work with you on this, and this. So my clients that I worked with my previous firm, they continued to be my clients and I had these larger long-term projects. So I essentially hit the ground running really fast. And I'm so grateful for that. And it took a hell of a lot of work and effort and all those things. But when it came to just February of this year when we met, I was like, oh, I kind of had wrapped up those big projects. So it was kind of quiet in a creepy way because I'm not used to anything being quiet. And I was like, wait a minute, I don't think I've really thought about my business strategically. Like when you're just doing as a consultant, billable work, get it done. I hadn't had the chance to have the brain space really to build out the infrastructure. What do I want my target audience to be? What do I want to focus on? So when we met, I think the timing was just so serendipitous because And then that's what masterclass was all about. It was like, how do you essentially gain mastery over your business, which frankly is not anything. And I've been in the world of consulting since I was, I don't know, 10 years old. Like there's, I've never taken a class on that before where it's actually directed at individuals who are starting or who want to take it to that next milestone.
What was like an early aha you had in masterclass?
Oh my gosh, I will tell you the biggest one was there was an exercise where we went through the strategy and there was a projections sheet that you asked us to fill out. And I was like, I don't even know how to wrap my brain around projections because my service offerings to that point were so project based that I didn't carve them out as, oh, if I want to hit X target, I would have to price this at this and then sell this many. Like the strategy was like a total aha moment. I'm like, wait, you can meet your targets like that? That's what it is to forecast. And so that for me was a lot of fun. And then being able to talk with my CPA about that too, because I finally had an understanding of what I wanted to focus on.
I love that. And a shared vocabulary with your CPA too, to say like, these are my targets,
totally.
and then just to set out to reverse engineer it. Although then we had that little blip of the pandemic.
Oh yeah, that little blip.
Right,
Yeah, exactly.
your big plans.
Exactly.
You rallied so much during this pandemic. First of all, you are the shining example of asking for help because you showed up at every CEO check-in, you came to every live webinar, and then you joined my Thrive program. And so we were part of this little pod that helped each other through. What do you think is something that came out of that?
The Thrive program I love because then that was followed by, I told you I'm a Julia junkie, that was then followed by the Mastermind Gold. But I think the Thrive program, the thing that I loved about it, Julia, was I think it was just 8 weeks from what I remember. Was it 6 or 8 weeks?
Yeah, we kept it short. It was it's never going to happen again, by the way, because it's not scalable. It was just a little pandemic, like let's give some extra help and support.
Yeah, and I love that because it was, hey, what do we want to knock out in 8 weeks? And it had an end goal to it, and the homework was, okay, Raabia, come up with your first video that you're going to share a showcase about your offerings. And I'm like, oh my God, I've never done that before. And you asked me for an aha. I will tell you, I laugh because I said this share this with my sister Amina, and I said, you know, I'm a recovering perfectionist. She was like, I don't know about the recovering part because I'm still working on it. And I heard that from you, right? Like,
yes, I'm a recovering perfectionist. Oh, and Sharon, one of our advisors, just joined us. Hi, Sharon Stecker.
Hi.
You're getting a big turnout here, Raabia.
Oh my gosh, this is so lovely.
So fun. I know, I can talk to
the whole crew is here.
So maybe just wrap us up about that, because then I want to ask where people can find you. We're already at the end here. If there's someone watching who's like, well, I'm a solopreneur and I'm a consultant like Raabia is, and I don't yet have my business figured out and I'm not going live, like all the things you're doing, someone could look at you right now and just be like, oh yeah, she went to Harvard Business School. That's why she knows how to do all this stuff. So
I wish I was that cool. Yeah.
What would you say to those people who are like considering, you know, ramping up?
Yeah. You know what I would say? And Julia, I know you've heard me talk about this a million times. The biggest key learning that I have, and I have it literally on my desk right now, is that Rumi quote that you shared with me, which is
wait, I've been waiting
you
so
do have
long
it?
to do this.
There you go. So if we read that backwards, So it's what you seek is seeking you.
Yes.
And
what does that mean to you?
For me, what that means, and I remember, so Julia, you shared that with me because I kept saying like, look, I'm putting all this stuff out there and I'm not getting any clients and I'm like doing this. And I remember sharing with my dad and he was like, how's business going? You know, we're always in touch. He's also a small business entrepreneur, as is my mom. And I said, Dad, I have never worked so hard not making any money. Like, it like the ROI tangibly from a dollars amount, it's been the hardest year. I can't even wrap my brain around it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And thank you for saying that, because so many people watching are thinking like, yeah, this has been miserable. Yes. It's
been tough. And the thing I would say is I have that note, the Rumi quote on my desk, and then I have also the phrase that you said, and it's, so what you seek is seeking you, and you said, and it's you just have to make yourself findable, Raabia.
Yes.
And I was like, Okay. And so I remember also learning in the masterclass, if you do not have an online presence, you have zero presence at this stage because I'm such a networker. I love going to in-person events. I've been to all of Nkrumah's events he would invite me to. Like, I just love it. But unfortunately, that's not our operating reality. So,
No,
so
not
get out
anymore.
there. Get out there. Yeah.
Well,
And
you just
just,
rallied
mhm.
so much, and I know you were really nervous to make those first videos. And I remember the master class where
I
or the
still am.
whichever
Yeah.
one it was, I can't remember which one, which group it was, but where
Hmm.
we, said, well, wait, make this little change and make that little
Yeah.
change,
The
and then you
critiques were
just,
so helpful.
well, then you just
Yeah.
blossomed, and now you have your own show. What's the show that you have?
So the series that I started is called the Legit Leadership Live series.
Love that name.
Valencia was my first guest. Thank you.
Oh, that makes me
Um,
so happy. Valencia, who's also a master class grad.
Totally, totally. And you'll hear me say this too. I am such a fan of being a legit leader. And what Rabia's version of that is, are you really showing up legit? Like, are you showing up in a way where people actually want to follow you? And
Mm.
that's where it goes back to the self-awareness, of course. And so yeah, and I did my second episode with Chief Medical Officer Amer Aldin yesterday, who happens to be my cousin, which was a lot of fun.
Oh, so
And
fun.
so,
Well, I hope you're
yeah,
going to have
so.
Nkrumah on.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
Oh, and
He's
Kruma and I would have
he's
fun.
totally going to
Yeah,
be on the show, and he's such a great leader and such an awesome dad, and supporter of our community and
totally.
causes he cares
Totally.
about. Well, tell us, Robbie,
Yeah.
because we have to wrap up, sadly. And again, there's so many more things I'd love to talk about with you, but what you've shared already was so helpful. And if people who came on late, Robbie was saying that even if you're a small business owner and you have a team of one or just like a VA or a couple of people,
Yeah.
it's not too soon to do like a self-assessment through Strength Finders.
Yeah.
And please contact
Absolutely.
Raabia. Alyssa put your URL in the chat, so that's great. So it's right there in the
Thank you
comments.
so much.
Yes, see,
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
complimentary. I didn't even
I
ask her to
love
do
it.
that. She just knew to do that.
She just knew to do it. I love
Exactly.
it.
So you can
Yeah.
reach out to Raabia and take this assessment. It's not a big investment, and figure out, how can I show up as a better leader?
Yeah.
Because certainly what we teach in Million Dollar Women Masterclass is if you want to get to $1 million in revenues, you have to go from doer to leader.
Yes.
And some of that
Yes.
is stop doing all those things, all that busy work, and become a delegation ninja and outsource. But some of it is develop leadership skills, which you can't do sitting
Absolutely.
alone in your apartment by yourself, right?
No.
So,
Yeah, you
yeah, so
can't.
Raabia can
And
help with that.
mhm. Absolutely. And I would just say now there are so many resources available to you, like there is no excuse, right? Because we don't learn these things in school, unfortunately. Maybe now younger generations are going to be learning the fundamentals of leadership, but whether it's me, I have a lot of other amazing colleagues like Carrie, who's a strengths guru. I work as a part of a women's collective called The Hive. Like everyone we're so willing and excited to help leaders or help people evolve into leaders. So there's a ton of resources and guidance available to you.
Fantastic. And let's not forget that even though 2020 was not the best year, 2021 is coming around. The vaccine's going to be
Yes.
here. We're going to get back to some semblance of normal. And how awesome would it be to use the rest of this lockdown time to become that leader, you
Yeah.
want to be. And then when you can
Yeah.
rev up and you do have more clients and you are hiring, you know how to hire, how to onboard, how to manage, and really
Yep.
show up as a leader your company needs you to be, right? Because companies need
Totally.
leaders, even when they're making 200,000, 500,000 a year. Can't wait till you get to $1 million and then become a leader. It doesn't work that way, right,
No,
Raabia?
I
You have to.
know. I wish it did, but it doesn't. Yeah.
No, it doesn't. So
You need it to get there.
how can people
Hmm.
find you? And then we have to wrap up.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you again for having me on.
My
It's been a
pleasure.
delight. And yeah, so if people actually go to my Instagram page, so it's Raabia Shafi Consulting, and the link that I have in there is actually a flow page, meaning you can find out about the holiday promo. I have a Women of Color masterclass on there that's complimentary. You can take a look at. I have my website linked on there, all the leadership series. So it's all consolidated in one place because it's hard to keep track. So just check out my Instagram profile and you'll see my Raabia Shafi flow page on there. And please reach out if you have any questions or you want to bounce around ideas. I'm more than happy to chat.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. It's always a joy to be with you, and I hope we
You
can do this
too.
again. And I will see you, I hope, in person, because we have that. Fortunately, we're in the same neighborhood,
Yes.
which is really, really lucky. And you've definitely been someone who has kept my joy levels high during the pandemic. So
Same
thank you
here.
also.
Thank you very much.
All
Yeah,
right.
it's takes a village, so I appreciate
Well,
it.
it was great having you on today. Bye, Raabia. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Take
Thank you very
care.
much. Bye.
Bye. Yeah, you really can do yourself a favor and do that strength assessment with Raabia or with another coach, but Raabia is fantastic. And just figure out, what am I really good at? And then what am I not so great at? And maybe that's where I need to outsource and delegate. If you're thinking about getting business coaching, we have a class starting up in January, $1 Million Women Masterclass that Raabia graduated from. Right now, we're running a small group of $1 Million Women coaches, having so much fun. Coaches who want to learn how to sell better and scale up their businesses. And that's going to be launched again in early 2021. We don't have a date on that yet. And we'd love to also ask your support because this is the end of the year and people are doing end of year giving. Many of you have already donated. We thank you so much to the $1 Million Women Fund, where we're providing scholarships to women of color who are trying to grow their businesses and don't have the resources to take our programs. We pay half and they pay half. And when I say we pay half, it's thanks to the generous support of people like you, foundations, corporations, each throwing in $25, $50. Vern Harnish on our board just made a gift of $5,000. Sharon Stecker, who's on our advisor, made a generous gift, and we're just so grateful. We turn that money right around and use it for scholarships. So thanks. If you can help, that'd be fantastic. Alyssa, maybe we'll put that in the chat. It's also in our link tree if you go to my bio, and I will look forward to seeing you probably not next week because it's the 23rd and everyone's gonna be getting ready for, Christmas and all that. Happy Hanukkah if you're celebrating. So enjoy the holidays. I will see you probably the next Wednesday. And if you love CEO Check-In and want to meet more amazing leaders like Raabia, just go to my YouTube channel. They're all posted there and you can check them out. Great to see you all today. Have a wonderful afternoon. Raabia, thanks for the great leadership tips. Mwah. I'll see you guys soon. Bye.